All right, so here we are in Adobe Illustrator, and in Illustrator, we're able to take a look at this design. You can see it's just the school logo. We've got tigers across the top and the logo here, and then here's the handmade logo. There's a few things I want to draw your attention to with this particular design because it's specifically formatted for making a sticker. And we've added in some of the extra perks that take a little extra detail to make happen, but they can be really helpful. So as you take a look at this, every one of these shapes have been grouped, but I can ungroup them for a minute so we can explore. Like if I take a look at this S, just to get a better sense of that, you can see there's a fill on this and no stroke. That's often how you want to have shapes configured for the vinyl cutter. The vinyl cutter will cut the edge of your fills and it will cut the edge of a stroke. And if you have a thick stroke, let me put one on just for the sake of clarity. Let's add one here that's kind of thick. If I have a shape like this, the vinyl cutter is actually going to cut this border in 3 places. It'll cut the edge of the fill, which you can see right now is sort of a blue line, and that shows where that is. But it's also going to cut both edges of a stroke if the stroke is bigger than about a half a point. And so most of the time you don't want to have a stroke, but I just wanted to show the value of, or the role of those two things. So I'm going to turn the stroke back off just like that. And you can see how all these work. Now, another thing you might notice in this design is that it's got some weird connectors like these right here. Those I added in just to make my life a little bit better. When you actually pull this apart, one of the things you have to do is separate out different pieces of the vinyl sticker. And you'll see that when we get to weeding in reality. But doing that weeding will be made much easier by having perforated sections. These are all in waste areas where I don't want to have the sticker. And so it'll make my life a little bit better when I do the weeding. It's a nice feature to add, but you definitely don't have to add that all the time. And then one last thing to draw your attention to is down here on the text. Since we're making a sticker, the sticker vinyl is going to determine the color. And it doesn't actually matter what color things are in your design. So I just imported this and didn't even change the color. They're still grouped. Let me ungroup those. But these have this sort of gold color, and these are the black color for the fill. Both still following the rule of a fill and no stroke. But it doesn't matter what the color is in the design. You can still do the cut just fine. Now, I'm going to group these all again just for the sake of keeping them together. But now I've got my design. I'm ready to go. And if I put this back into view, I'm almost ready to print. Now, printing for this is as easy as using the vinyl cutter like a printer. And so you come down here to print. And this is what we're going to do. Now, it's already selected as my printer. It's the Roland GS24. That's what we want to have here. And there's a few pieces of setup that have to happen in this process. So I'm going to make sure that it's there. And what we want to look at is the media size and some of these things down here. But this is our preview. The preview is very helpful on the vinyl cutter because it gives you a sense of what's going to happen next. And a big part of this is getting your material size right. So we'll go into setup and check what's going on with our printer by looking at our preferences. So we want to make sure that once you click setup, you've got all these printers here. Make sure you've got the Roland GS24 selected. And then you go to preferences. And here we're going to use get from machine. But before we do that, we need to go set up the machine. So we're going to cut to real life and see how that works. All right, so to turn it on, you press the power button. And it moves this cam over to where it starts. You can see here in the boot, it's asking what kind of material we have, and I have a roll. So today I have a roll of material that's back here. This whole roll of white. Set it on the rollers. And put this through. You need to have these rollers be underneath the white areas. And so I've got one here and one over here. And once that's the case, you get it all aligned. Make sure that you're nice and straight. You want to lock it down. Also, want to make sure that you don't have a lot of distance here. Close it. Then, over here I can tell it that I have a roll. And it's going to measure the width of the roll as it goes back and forth. and I have a width over there for it to monitor. So now we're back in the software, and the number on the screen you just saw was 540 something. And so if I say get from machine or 560 something, you can see it pulls in right away the 564.3. Usually it's very close, and it's a rounding error between the two. The LCD just doesn't have enough characters to show the decimal place. Often I'll leave this in millimeters. The length is something that you sort of have to make up if you're using a roll, and we often do. You'll put in a length. 1600 is the de facto, but you can actually write in whatever you want here, and it will show that on the next piece. So I'm going to put in 800 for this example. We could leave it 1600. It'll just make it more pronounced that things have changed by making it 800. So I'll hit OK, and then I'm going to hit print, which is a little counterintuitive. It won't actually print. It just saves those settings, and nothing changed here. So I'm going to hit done. Okay. So I hit done, and that's a little strange, but now if I go in and I print again, you can see the page size changed a lot. And so here it's, 560 wide and 800 long. That looks about right for the aspect ratio that I'd expect, and it's ready to go. Now, in order to get this to print, all I need to do is press that button. So here we go. Look very carefully to make sure that it's there. You get this lined up, and then you stick it in there.
So after the vinyl comes out of the vinyl cutter, it's time to start weeding your design, which means focusing on the negative space. So I'm going to start with some negative space that I can see, from the glare of the lights above, like the tiger's eye right here. I want that to be removed. So I'm going to use my favorite tool here, the paper clip, to sort of peel out, find a corner of a piece you want to remove, and then just sort of dig it up with a little bit of pressure. I also see this representing one of the tiger's fangs there, another one right here. There's this representing its mouth. And now I'm ready to start some bigger negative space, where you have to be a little careful and a little strategic with the order with which you remove it and how quickly you remove it. Like I could see right here, this is not negative space, but it started to pull up some of the tiger's stripes around its mouth. Did not want that to happen, so therefore I am going to carefully and slowly follow the negative space that I'm trying to remove. Let's see, here is another one right here. So you can see now it's going around its eye. You always want to go slow with it. Alright, so now you're starting to see this come together. There's also negative space in places like the R, the middle of the R here. I know you can't see the R, but trust me, it's there. And I might do another letter if I have negative space. I think we're good there. So there's more lettering down here. The word's handmade, so there's the middle of the D. Here's the middle of the A. And at some point you want to make the decision to remove the larger outline of the image. the negative space there. So I'm going to just begin to do that, and then we'll probably go to a time lapse for the rest. So you want to be really careful here and making sure that the parts that you don't want to come up don't come up. You can see right there, that one started to come up a little. Give me some scissors. And while you're doing a big piece of like this, you may want to have scissors on hand or something to cut pieces away, because this can get overwhelming. So now you can see some of the lettering coming off. And again, you want to do this slowly to ensure that parts that are meant to remain don't come up with the vinyl. Alright, so now, in order for this to be transferable to a larger surface, a window, a wall, whatever, we need to put this transfer paper over it, or masking paper. And this is probably a two-person job because it's so big. So you cover it up sticky side down. And you want to make sure that you minimize any air bubbles. And then we have this tool here to remove air bubbles and also burnish the vinyl to the back of the transfer paper so that it sticks really well. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect for it to work. And then once you have it flat over, take your cutting tool, and then maybe cut around where you have some overhanging transfer paper. Put that away. And then here, the real value is that you can pick this up and the sticker will come with it. So the sticker comes with it, and then once you have your surface, you just slap the transfer paper with the sticker on the back of it, and when you peel away the transfer paper, the sticker remains. Awesome. Great.